it keeps us in the unknown, but how do we actually let go of all formalities and live in the abstract? We live in the unknown, the cloud of unknowing, as Alan Watts called it. We live where each moment is a total wonder.
Yeah.
It's a total gift. And it's like flowing into us each second, this gift of creation. And if we can make ourselves available to that, we start to live an experience of joy, because each moment is the unknown. It's the unknown. It's the possible or impossible being possible. Then ETs show up, then psychic phenomena happens, and then it's like, you don't say, oh, it's outside my belief system, because you suspend your belief system.
Yeah.
That's where we're headed, I think.
Welcome to Far Out with Faust, everybody. I am Faust Chicho, and today I am thrilled and honored to be joined by the one and only Alan Steinfeld. Alan is a writer, a producer, a speaker. He speaks on the fields of human potential, of metaphysics, conscious evolution, healing, creativity, spiritual awakening, and cosmic intelligences. He's also the host and director of the primetime television program New Realities, which is probably where you know him if you do. He has done that for decades. He's brought cutting-edge ideas in science, health, and spirituality to his audiences all around the world. He's interviewed over 3,000 of the most influential people in these fields, and he's got over 12 million people who have seen his New Realities videos on YouTube. And he's interviewed many people who I'm very proud to have called my teachers, my mentors, my friends, and he's got a whole list of Far Out with Faust guests who he's had on his show: Darryl Anka, Elizabeth April, Rob Gauthier, Tyler Ellison, Marina Serene, to name just a few. He also produces the New Realities TV show for iTunes, for podcasts, for BBS Radio. He's on the board of the Friends of the Institute of Noetic Sciences. He's the vice president of the Association of Psychotherapy and Spirituality. And he's the representative to the United Nations for the Academy for Future Sciences. This list goes on and on and on, but he's also an author. I'm reading his incredible new book called Making Contact, which we are going to talk about and get into. And without further ado, I want to thank you so much for beaming in, Alan. I know that the introduction was lengthy, but you've earned it, my friend.
Oh, thank you. Well, I just always done what I really loved and followed my passion, followed my highest excitement, as Bashar would say. And
that's right.
And that's been the most interesting journey.
It's a good recipe and it works. You know, when I don't know anyone who's followed it and had it not go right for them, you know?
Right, exactly. You have to invest everything in it. There's no fallback job, you know. There's no like, I'm just going to study accounting on the side. I mean, that's great if you want to do that, but I could never do that. I had to jump full in, head first, feet first, and see where it went in this most interesting challenge to our intellectual understanding in this other world, this metaphysical world. Is something's going on there, and I think we can start to figure it out. It's no longer has to be occult or mysterious or whatever. I think it's our mission to understand these next levels of reality.
I agree. I believe it's one of the reasons why we're here. And just to pull a quote from your book, from you, that you wrote, and this is somewhat in the beginning of the book, but it really sets the tone and for a lot of the discussions that I have and that Alan has been having his whole life. And the quote it goes like this: "We have lived with a hidden history that has resulted in a crisis in the season of human affairs, such as war with each other, the earth, and ourselves. To modify the principles of experience, we need to abolish these enslavements and rectify the falsehoods about who we are and our place in the cosmos. And that is so incredibly true right now with everything that's happening, that I just thought it was perfect to frame this conversation in.
Yeah, we're at a crisis point. I mean, of course, everybody's always said that for the last maybe 200 years, we're at a crisis point, but now we really are at that point. I mean, it always seems like, we're getting closer to the horizon. It just keeps moving. But I think it's a really magical time where we have the possibility of waking up to new technologies, maybe new beings coming into our awareness, and understanding that we are not the limited unspiritual beings that are trapped in time and space, but that we are multidimensional, we are infinite, and we have the capacity to know a greater mind. That's why I'm excited about what's going on.
That's the same with me. And, one of the things that I'm really enjoying in your book and that I've enjoyed in your work is, you begin to ask the questions that will bridge this, this consciousness, that the norm of consciousness that human beings are kind of conditioned into in our society, which is very materialistic and it's very three-dimensional, and it's very limiting, in my opinion. Not that it's not a wonderful life and experience, but I just think that there's so much more. And you begin to bridge the connection between awareness and these greater levels of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And your body of work really shines a light on how those two things, they are connected. There is a bridge there. And that, a lot of people who walk down that bridge find themselves becoming more aware of, many times, firstly, they think, well, I'm just grown crazy. I've had this kind of errant thought in my head, and God knows I must be cracking up, But it goes from that it transitions into, wait a minute, why have we been so conditioned to doubt these things that come into our awareness? And there's a lot of reasons for that, but that's one of the things I so respect and admire about your work, because it's so dedicated to building a bridge for people to cross. And you were doing it at a time, especially when you were younger, that people were being very much smeared and campaigned against. You weren't allowed to talk about these things when you started doing it.
I don't know. I never let anything like that stop me. I mean, it does come down to our conditioning of our worldview. And when I met people like John Mack, you know who John Mack was?
Yeah.
Harvard. What a genius of a person he was. He says, look, he was talking to people who've been abducted. He said he could do one of two things. He could say they were crazy and they're making it up. And since they weren't acting crazy, except for this way out story, maybe they were having an experience of a larger worldview that he wasn't aware of. So he chose to put his beliefs on the side, talk to these people, and then he said, I think these people are having a real experience. I think something's going on that's beyond the logical understanding, and that opened up the door for so many people. You see, we're just taught logical thinking, ABC, 1, 2, 3, cause and effect. And what John Mack says, if we're going to understand this phenomena, we need other ways of knowing. We need to establish the intuition. We need to validate this sense of awareness of the right brain. And, when I teach remote viewing, it's totally illogical. It's like, how can we in this little space see what's happening on the other side of the planet or, down the road? When we get out of the way, this is what Joe Dispenza says, the quantum field is available to us. So this has been proven over and over. I prove it in my own classes. I'm shocked. I mean, when I interviewed Hal Puthoff, who was a scientist, he said,
I know how, yeah.
He said every day he'd go into SRI, Stanford Research Institute, And he would, in the 70s, said, this is impossible. This can't happen. And then at the end of every day, he was just blown away. It's like, wow, how did they get those targets? So there's something about us human beings that's been hidden from us. It's not been told. It's been dogmatized by religion and politics and media and education. But what's happening now, and I'm an advocate for the infinite perceptions of the human mind. That's what I'm standing for.
That's a very noble and wonderful thing to stand for. I'm with you. And I have these discussions, almost daily with people, because I'm lucky to have people in my life who are willing to have the discussions, who don't agree with me, but who are willing to discuss with me, and they, I slowly but surely watch as, they come 2 steps forward, they take 3 steps back, and it's a road, but it is absolutely tied to consciousness and awareness, and being able to conceive of a world where these things exist has to be like the first step. We can't see beyond our own beliefs, and some people,
right,
I feel like they want to believe, but and they'll tell you, like, I can't believe that. They can't believe that. They tell you flat out, I can't believe. Why? There's
because
so much
they've been
more
conditioned. They've been programmed not to believe it. And this is what we're up against with the government disclosure.
Yeah.
So the government knows these things are real. They have ships. If you ever heard the Bob Lazar interview on Joe Rogan, I mean, that's a fantastic.
I know all about it. Yeah.
Right. So there's something that when they open that door saying, guess what? Yes, they're here. We've had ship. Everything changes. The reality construction of what we think is possible. Like people say, I just can't believe it. Well, guess what? They're not going to have any choice. Yeah. And it's not up to the government. There are people having experiences all the time. But I think the government is like the church. In the Middle Ages, it holds the setting for the reality that we're living in. And if you're a Copernicus or a Galileo and you say, guess what? The earth is not the center of creation. You just can't believe that, because it looks like it's the center of creation, right? I mean, we're taught that, and it looks that way. Look, the sun goes up and it rises, and the moon and everything circles around us, because we're looking at that from a very limited window. As soon as we had telescopes, went out into space, we could see that really the earth and all its family of planets is revolving around the sun. The sun's revolving around certain local stars. Those local stars are part of the Orion arm of the Milky Way galaxy, which is one of probably trillions of galaxies. So it doesn't make sense if you're educated to think you're the center of the universe, and then we're a speck of dust. But
I mean, I was just, one of my guests was just saying it really insightfully and profoundly. He said, we love to look up and we say, well, what are they? Where do they come from? Well, we don't even know. Most people have no idea what we are, where we come from. And
that's the big question. That's what my book, Making Contact, is about. We have to make contact with ourselves, which means the infinite mind, the infinite potential. And then only when we know who we are, not only, but it's part of the, then we can know the other, we can know each other, we can know the earth, we can know the planet, we can know so much more once we awaken to
that's true.
The mystery.
It's literally true. And this wonderful question that comes from Mary Rodwell's book, which you share in your book, and I know about her and her work. What will humanity look like when we realize that we are part of a larger cosmos, that we are part of a larger family of life and civilization? And that is a stellar question, because I think if only people understood that human nature is not is not what we've been led to believe it is.
Yeah.
We look around us and we see these things. Human nature is that impulse, that instinct that we have, that when someone's in front of danger or a car or anything, we move to save them. We don't think. We don't think about, you know what I mean? Darwin couldn't have been right, because if he was right in his entirety about survival of the fittest, if he's even the one who came up with that, there's a lot of evidence now that shows that message was put forth after for a lot of reasons. But within our instinct would be to preserve ourselves. It wouldn't be to save some old woman that we don't know. How is that good for the species? I mean, but that is our true nature. I believe that. I believe people are very good in that.
I totally agree with you. Marshall Rosenberg, his work, Nonviolent Communication. He says human beings not only have a need to be loved, they have a need to give love. So, or help. I mean, if you ask someone for directions and you're lost, most people, I'd say 99 out of 100, are more than happy to help you out because you're meeting their need to give. This is basic to our human condition, and we're not taught that. We're taught Darwinian philosophy, which if you ever study the work of Bruce Lipton says...
Yes, sir.
Darwin, right. We just saw Bruce Lipton in San Diego, right? Wasn't he incredible? Well,
I love it.
He turned the whole thing around. He says, Darwin was wrong. It is not the survival of the fittest. It's the survival of the group, of the collective, of the sympathetic, of the compassionate. That's what survives. So we have it wrong, but we're making progress because now we're talking about it, and there are people waking up to alternative ideas about the nature of reality, and we're trying to build a new society, like Mary Rodwell says. What does the new humanity look like? It looks like beings that are open to the impossibility of forever. Like nothing is beyond the reach of who we are as light beings. My whole thing in making contact is that we are the extraterrestrials. We are not like the other animals of the earth. We have these animal bodies, but we have something else. We have this facility of the divine. So it's a strange mixture of the upper chakras with the lower chakras. There's the animal instincts, and then there's the higher parts that want to transform the world, have everyone be happy. So that's the threshold we're really at. And these beings out there are waiting for us to grow up, basically. Don't you think?
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly, and I think that they see that I think they see that there's been a great deception that has gone on this planet for, at least 100 years. But they also understand that through that darkness can come great light. And I'm sure that you probably believe something similar to this, but there's this non-interference, universal law that is generally understood in these circles and in these civilizations. They have relations with us, literally, figuratively, metaphorically. They are, and I think that's when you say that we are the extraterrestrials, you're absolutely right. We are. I don't think that there is such a thing as a native species. We know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is going to go far out, but that is the name of the show. We know that there are. I say we know, and I mean in an intuitive fashion. Obviously, I don't have the kind of material proof that skeptics would need to say, well, how can you say we know? But when I say, what I mean when I say, I know, we know that there are planets out there that the avian form and archetype has been evolved into the sentient creature on the planet. And in fact, some planets where the avians live with the feline archetype that's been evolved into a sentience and this greater divine consciousness. And And we humans, we have our own unique thing going on, but we absolutely have a blend of a lot of these wonderful and amazing and very advanced civilizations genetics in our bodies.
Right.
That's what I believe, and you probably know even more about this fascinating subject than I do, but that's what we're here to discover. And I think that we're at a point where it's like a bottleneck. Things have to shift because the path we're on now is not sustainable. So it's like something's got to give one way or the other, and I'm hoping it gives in the right direction.
Well, I think this is one of the reasons the government has finally decided that to come out with some information, because they may not think it's hope for the planet, but in some level they realize that they can't keep up the charade of this illusion. And I think some of the people in the government realize that maybe there is something about ET contact that actually can save our civilization. I mean, I always say they're not filling up their gas tank to get here, right? They have a 0-point technology which will make, and this is also the political problem, fossil fuel, if it really is fossil fuel, obsolete. So
that's it right there. You just said it. That's the biggest reason for the great deception that has gone on.
Right. Money and greed and corporate power and manipulation and all those things that have made humans so awful for so long. It's not the people ever who want war against another country. It's just the leaders. Oh, let's invade that country. The people just want to live their own lives and be happy with their family. And then you get a politician, whether it's in the 30s, 40s, or just recently, they say, no, we're going to invade that country. It's like back to Alexander the Great. I mean, it's about power and insecurity. If those people were just loved a little more, they probably wouldn't want to wage war on the world. So I think,
It's mind-boggling, how 99.9% of people on this planet really want peace and want this communion with their neighboring nation states and their neighbors in general. People thrive on this kind of openness, right? No, and don't get me, like, Ukrainians and Russians, they're like first cousins. They're like brother and sister. They're virtually inseparable in their if you test the genetics on them, the archaeologists would tell you they're same people because they've all lived together and been together for so long. So you can't say that, oh, well, there's this rivalry. No, I mean, unfortunately, that rivalry was stoked. It was a fire that was lit and then stoked, and it was not for anyone's gain except for the greed of a lot of Western societies and nations. And that's unfortunate because here we are, it's 2023, and this is atrocious. It's ridiculous, that this is going on right now. And it wouldn't be, I don't think, because there wouldn't be an energy crisis to fight over, right? I mean, it wouldn't exist. It couldn't. So you see the unseen hand that's still at work.
It's still at work, but I think we are asking questions. We're making a big deal of it. We're going to conferences. We're meeting with each other of like minds. There is a great future that awaits us. If everyone could learn how to remote view and see through their blindfolds and intuit their deeper feelings, this is part of how we change the world. And we have to go against what people are saying are impossible, because that's never gotten anyone anywhere. It's always possible, and inventions. So we're moving into a time where Aquarius, the age we're moving into, where Pluto enters Aquarius on March 23rd. Not sure when you're going to show this, but The Pluto is the planet of transformation, of total destruction. Aquarius is the time of ascension, opening the mind. So I think what we're coming into is a new comprehension of reality, a new understanding of who we are in relationship to the world. And if you ever heard of Donald Hoffman, you ever listen to his? He says space and time are doomed. This concept, which Einstein said, yeah, space and time doesn't exist. They're labels in which we frame our reality, but there is something out there, and it goes to the UFO thing too. There's something out there that we're only pretending to comprehend, but it works. It works on the level that, we have this computer, we have airplanes, we have cars. It works on that level, but that's based on 400-year-old technology. Newton's laws. You put energy out that way, you get energy this way. We're still running our world on concepts that go back to Newton. And what's coming in, and I think it's affecting a lot of it's the quantum revolution. I know people have used that, but quantum understanding means that we're entangled. We're all entangled. Our consciousness is entangled. That maybe reality is not what we think it is. When we're looking at a tree, we're creating the tree, but when we're not labeling it, the time wave, the fractal wave, when you're collapsing the wave, we only collapse the wave into concretizing form when you label it, when you identify it. But if you don't identify it, everything is much more fluid. It's much more abstract. It's much more multifaceted. So let's look at not collapsing the wave function and living in the more abstract realms of being. And I think this is how the ETs do it, if I could guess. They are using a different physics, which even the U.S. government said the phenomena is based on quantum physics. It's one of those leaked documents that came out of the ATIP program. Yes. And so when they go from unidentified flying objects, right, UFOs, to unexplained aerial phenomena, we are going from object to phenomena. So people say, like Hillary Clinton said when she first came out with this on Jimmy Kimmel, there's a little clip. Oh, what's the difference? UFOs, UAPs. There's a huge difference between objects that we're observing and phenomena that is directly affecting our consciousness, our neurology, our biology, our psychology, in some cases traumatizing people. This is an interactive phenomenon. If you read the second chapter of my book by Grant Cameron, he says, if you've seen a UFO, you are part of the phenomenon. There are no innocent bystanders. So something really exciting is going on if we just follow these little steps to say that reality is more fluid. We actually are the observers of this consciousness field. We can tap in and change the world if we want to. That's Joe Dispenza.
That's right. That's the man who taught me how to meditate, changed my life. I mean, one of the many people who really had a profound impact on my. I love DJ, we call him, and
yeah, I knew Joe for like 30 years. We kind of went to the Raptor school together. That was where his fundamental teachings began. And he used to, and like he was pretty excelled in some of the disciplines. Do you know about some of the disciplines at the Raptor school?
I know. I've heard a little bit, but tell me, please.
Walking around with your blindfolds on for 3 days. We'd had to write something we want to create on a little index card, and someone put it on a fence the size of a football field, and we had to wear these blindfolds and try to find the card that you created by being pulled there with a certain type of consciousness and energy, breathing. Joe would get his card all the time. Joe was a really focused, excelled student of the great work. And so when he left the Ramtha School after what the bleep kind of launched him in the world, he was able to take a lot of those teachings and then take it to the next level, because this is really about being an ancient initiate, what the mystery schools. This is, I think, what Joe is continuing on some level with the technology that even makes it more exciting. So he used to come out in the Ramtha School and say, "Hello, geniuses." That was, maybe he still does that. And
he does do that. He does do that.
He still, yeah, because we're all, in order to create and cognize this world on the level that we're functioning, there's a level of genius in all of us, a level of divinity, even more than genius. I mean, genius comes when we step outside the box that we've been put in, and we allow the unlimited mind to flow through us. So,
and there's a leap of faith involved in that, to a degree, because you have to be okay with going into the unknown, right? And Dr. Joe talks about this extensively. And once you begin to experience it, you realize how vital it is. And it's just you just said something. It was maybe like 10 minutes ago when you said, we have to be fluid, and by not collapsing the wave function, we are leaving the door open for an infinite amount of possibilities that are, opportunities. And I think that, it's like, if you don't focus on, that terrible thing that might happen, and then you go ahead and make it happen for yourself. It's like, no. One of the things,
you'd be like losing the internet there or something like that.
What? That was crazy. That was like, I was hoping nothing got fried. But
no, you're good. You're good. But yeah, you can't focus. Like, that's what they say about if you want money, all you get is the wanting. If you feel like you have it, then you have it. Then the universe fills the void. That's how powerful our mind is. And that's Joe Dispenza's work. When you know in your mind that your inner reality is greater than what the world is telling you, it comes together. Yeah. And it does over and over again. So don't give up on your beliefs and excitement.
That's right.
Know it. Yeah. So that's what's so, but I like to go, I want to say beyond where Joe Dispenza is going, but I like to go into the unknown. So it's great to manifest what you want, and that's what The Secret says.
Oh, yeah.
But that just keeps us. I'm not criticizing anybody's work.
No,
but
that was all about the unknown. Yeah,
it keeps us in the unknown, but how do we actually let go of all formalities and live in the abstract? We live in the unknown, the cloud of unknowing, as Alan Watts called it. We live where each moment is a total wonder.
Yeah.
It's a total gift. And it's like flowing into us each second, this gift of creation. And if we can make ourselves available to that, we start to live an experience of joy, because each moment is the unknown. It's the unknown. It's the possible or impossible being possible. Then ETs show up. Then psychic phenomena happens, and then it's like, you don't say, "Oh, it's outside my belief system," because you suspend your belief system.
Yeah,
that's where we're headed, I think.
You're giving me all, like, one of my questions was going to be about, how, because as soon as I met you, I could feel how positive your vibration, the energy coming off you was, and you turned to me and you're like, "Don't I know you?" And I said, yes, but I was thinking the same thing. But it's funny you say that, but I'm you're so optimistic, and you have such wonderful energy, and so intelligent and articulate, and I just love, you've already answered like 3 of my questions. I didn't even have to ask them, so it's going great.
He wanted to tell you why I'm so optimistic, because I mean, this is my belief. It's a belief, but my last lifetime was not a picnic. You know, what I remember of that last lifetime in World War II, in Nazi Germany, in the concentration camp, all that awful, awful things that happened. It doesn't get any lower or base or survival mode than those conditions that were probably the low points. And I mean, of course, it's still going on. There's still atrocities, still Holocaust going on. But that was such a kind of initiation, going through that lifetime and remembering it, and then returning to this incredible possibilities that is right in front of us now, where we can feed everyone on the planet. We could have 0 point energy. Everyone could be the creative genius that they are. They can be the great artists, the great speakers, the great singers. This is the world that we can make possible, because that is the flowering of humanity. When we are abundant, when we're not surviving, we're thriving, when we're looking at the adventure of each moment and we're tapped into our creative flow. I mean, what do you think the purpose of incarnation is? That's my question to you. What do you think it is?
I mean, I think it's to absolutely remember like who and what we are. You know, this incredible divine individuation of God, of source, of life, of the very stuff that life is made out of. Right. And to come into that realization, you know, in a body, which is, I mean, like, you know, I think that this is one of the most amazing experiences to have. I think that's why
we already knew that before we incarnate. We already knew that we were divine and infinite forever. Yeah. So when we came in, we chose to forget that, right?
Right.
And in forgetting it, we also extend, I think this is my belief, we extend the unknown as the fingertips of creation, as making known the unknown. We're here to be creative. Like this program we're doing right now, it's never been done before. It's never been thought of. It's never been. And so we're creating an unknown, previously unknown reality, and we're adding to creation with our creative interaction. So we are adding to forever with the impulse of the divine. This is my theory. Divine moving through us to give back more to the phenomena of the incarnational experience.
Yes.
That's my take.
You've worked with some and had some incredible minds on your show over the years, and people who I've learned a lot from, and you know, I'm is there one in particular that stands out to you? I mean, besides your time at Ramtha, but like the people who you've had on as a guest, that like one of the most mind-blowing experiences, like what'd you learn?
I think we talked about it before. Bruce Lipton, when I actually read Bruce Lipton's article, it was actually in a Ramtha newspaper called, I think they were calling that Windwards, or there was another incarnation. I said, who is this guy? He was redoing biology. I wasn't really a student of biology, but I knew enough biology to know that Bruce Lipton was saying something that no one had ever said before, that our self-receptors were connected to the signal of the spirit that's outside of us. And then it went along with when I met Deepak Chopra said, you know, consciousness is not in the body. We are in consciousness. So, and then Nassim Haramein, where he talked about nested black holes, and that made sense on a whole other level. Lynn McTaggart, the field, when she was one of the first people to talk about the field effect. And then in the art world, Alex Gray. Alex, you know, well, I have a really great experience with Alex Gray, because when I was at the Ramtha school, Ramtha said, you know, you could turn your body into light. You can ascend with your body, and that's really why we're here. So I said in a little prayer, if that's possible, I want to have a vision of that. I said that to myself. And then maybe it was a couple of months later or something, I walk into this art gallery, and there was the Chapel of Sacred Mirrors, where the body is turning into light. That was the vision I had asked for, and it's like right there in front of me. So it wasn't the vision I thought, oh, I thought I'd have this little hallucination and then boom. No, it was the vision of actually seeing this painting. And for me, a confirmation that, yes, this is possible. This is at the end of Alex Gray's series, after he goes through all the organ systems and he has a chakra system, and then he has like all the energy coming in. Then he has the chakra spinning and the body actually going in this painting from solid into light. And I said, that's the vision I asked for of ascension. So that blew me away. It's like, wow, you asked for a vision, you really can get what you asked for. So there's been so many phenomenal people that we've now allowed to come forward and share their knowledge about what's possible. I got a lot of great spiritual teachers. Paul Lowe was one who was so present each moment. He said, did you see that? Did you see this? It's like, you don't have time for your own self-indulgence. Did you see how you talk to that waiter? Did you see where you go unconscious there? I mean, it wasn't in a severe way, but in a way to say, there's so much in this moment to be aware of that every time I misplace my phone, which happens more often than I want to think, it's like, oh, I wasn't conscious when I put it down. So be conscious. You put your phone down, you put your car, don't throw it, don't go into this internal like dungeon in a way that of your own creation. And it's like, get out of your own story, your own identity, your own mishigas, as they say in non-Yiddish. But it's like it's like a cartoon I show in my workshops. It was a guy is sitting at a bar stool, and I guess he's sort of drunk, and he's yelling at the bartender saying, hey, pal, you have no idea who I think I am. So that's all our stories, all our self-importance. We carry our history, which isn't even real. It's something we keep fabricating based on what we thought happened. But you tell someone else, remember what happened there? They go, no, I don't remember that happening that way. So we carry around these ideas. There's nothing wrong with history. There's nothing wrong with identity, but just don't get attached to, that's not who you are. You're not your story. You're not your history. You're not your name. You're not your personality. And people get offended if you say that's not what they're not. If you insult someone's political party or even baseball team, if you insult someone's baseball team because they're so identified. If you ever go to Cincinnati on a Cincinnati Reds game and you're not a Cincinnati...
Same way.
Yeah, the Eagles, it's like they will actually harm people because, how is that a function of a compassionate human being? Oh, you don't like my baseball, my football team? Well, that's how identified with this limited, and there's nothing wrong with it, I guess. There is something wrong with it, but
in that respect, there is something wrong with it, though, because there's part of the conditioning that we see in society is more and more identification with labels, more and more classifications, more and more separate. And you look at the intention behind the creation of these campaigns and labels, and they are for exactly these reasons. They are right. to keep people divided, and it's usually around these subjects that are the most provocative and that will cause kind of the most rift,
Right.
Keep people looking in the wrong direction when they should be looking within and looking around in this world and saying, wait a minute. What?
Well, that's only if you take other people's beliefs seriously. Even that's only if you take your own beliefs seriously. I believe a lot of things, but I don't take them seriously. If someone says, no, you're a commie or whatever they would say to people now, it's like, well, that's your judgment, and that's okay. Shirley MacLaine, I don't know if she created, she says, what you think of me is none of my business. So it's like, That's a hard one to get over. But so like living, like I said before, in the abstract, where there are no definitive things, like when you stand in front of a tree, of course you're calling it a tree, but let's say you let go of those labels, what you'd be in front of is an incredible being. And you would start to sense how that being was feeling your being. There's this, so when we take people or things out of the boxes, and we need the boxes to create the world, but if we could take them out and suspend that, then the world lights up into this awakened new reality.
It's so
yeah.
true.
So that's my work. It's your set. It is new realities, but it comes down to perception. So when the perception, so we're taught to see. We are actually taught to see. And it's like, let's say, so you're growing up and your parents show you a picture of a horse, right? And you say, oh, that's what a horse looks like. That's the pattern. And so when you finally see a horse in the real world and not a picture, you're able to identify the patterns that you saw and say, oh, yeah. And you give it the label because that's the pattern you see. But how do you, and I ask this question, how do you recognize something you haven't cognized? Do you know what recognition means, actually? I'm asking you.
I'm assuming it means that you already know something and
right.
you affirm or confirm that knowledge.
Right. Exactly. You cognize something and then you come along like the horse and you recognize it because you've had to cognize it. But how do we learn cognition in the first place is the big question. Well, we're programmed. We're programmed by your parents, your education to identify things as things, and in a way, it's not a bad thing. It's like we live in a world where there are things that you need to, know what a wall is so you don't run into it. We need that identification in order to function within a limited reality. But then we can also suspend the definitions if we want to transcend the boundaries of belief, the boundaries. So it's like you need a foot in both worlds. You need to recognize the world, and then you also need to be open to new cognitive realities. So it's like people get very stuck with their identifications, like we said before. This is what I believe. This is what's possible. This is my political party. This is my baseball team, my football. And that's where they're locked in. So someone comes along, there's no room for any other level of cognition. Someone comes along, and actually I show this video in these classes I do of
You're going to have to take one of these classes, man.
You should.
Curious.
Well, I'll give you the punchline of that. So there's this videotape of cognition where these people are playing basketball, and I say, count the passes of the people in the white T-shirts. You know that video?
No, but
I should show it here.
I could edit it in.
You could edit it. Okay. Count the number of passes with the team in white and tell me what the answer you get. All right? And then I have to ask you, and try that. And then just see if there's anything else. Okay. So.
Okay.
Anyway. Yeah, you see that. I'll send that to you.
Okay, I'll edit it in, yeah.
And then just count and then see what comes to you. Okay, yeah. And anyway, the answer is, I don't want to say anything more. But so because that's a cognitive awareness. So how do we even know ETs are here if no one taught us how to see it? That's the thing. Right. That's where I'm going with this. So there's like an orb of light that you can photograph it on your phone. And sometimes you could see these orbs and say, oh, that's interesting. But maybe those orbs are talking to us. But how do we recognize that dialogue if no one, especially a society, has taught us not to cognize it in the first place? We need an education of cognition of other realities, like, I slept overnight in a haunted house. I really didn't believe in haunted houses until like in the middle of the night, something came up. I mean, that's real. There are spirits there, and it's not like anyone taught me to see that, but then I'd like, oh, that must be what that is. So I actually ended up throwing this thing out of the house because it was just keeping me up. I didn't know why I wasn't afraid, but I just wasn't, and it just like threw.
That's why you were able to throw it out.
I guess. I mean, I would think if a house was haunted, I mean, I could be afraid of like noises, but I wasn't. I was sleeping, and so anyway. Cognition is the key to the new realities, learning to cognize the unknown. Making known the unknown is what Ramp's slogan was to me and Joe Dispenza and thousands of other people that joined that school. Making known the unknown, cognizing new realities, recognizing a higher function of mind. This is the destiny of humanity. Becoming the great being that we always knew we were. This is the excitement.
Absolutely. I love it. For people out there who are listening who, they have this, a lot of people who are listening, I'm sure, like, some of them I'm sure have made contact, and know how to go within in order to reach out, and some of them I'm sure, even go on, stargazing, and they go into the stars and, to see the kind of the physical manifestation of this contact, which we know is very accessible these days to people who are truly interested and want to go and see, how powerful communication can be. And but it does, the nature of contact seems to be changing now. We don't see these dramatic displays that were once, kind of every few years that would happen. They've kind of fallen off, and it seems to me like communication really is shifting to be more internal. And I know that you say that as well. And I'm pretty sure that everything you've been talking about, that's what you mean when you say that, right?
Yeah. No, it is about knowing the self. Yeah, absolutely. The internal, divorcing ourselves from what been told and brainwashed and conditioned to think the world is, and then kind of self-educating yourself about what's really going on. If we don't look at the world as particles, but more as energy waves instead of particles, then we can start to feel our energy body a little more, and then we cognize a different reality. This is the key to the unknown. So that's like
Caroline Corey says, it's the potential for new gifts of consciousness. It's, at everyone's fingertips, but, and she talks about, and you talk about this in the book as well, wow, did you hear that? Can you hear that thunder from where you are?
Yes, that's exciting.
Oh my God, that's crazy. In acknowledging our lineage to the stars, we can align with those frequencies to activate higher potential of our minds. And that's
right.
Everything.
Exactly. But first we have to know there is a higher potential to our mind. And then you have to make yourself available to a downloaded influx, a creative thought. And when you make yourself available, don't doubt yourself. That's the new cognition. When I teach remote viewing, I say, trust your instincts. Trust your imaginal cognition. People say this is impossible. How can you remote view? But I don't know how it works. I don't even know how it's possible, but it seems to be actually a reality.
Yeah.
So that's just something.
Oh, I love the subject. We'll do another podcast where we talk about that, because I've done shows where all the focus is on remote viewing and the validity of it. So I love it, and I'm a huge fan of JJ and is it Desiree? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Desiree.
JJ and Desiree. I love those two and the work they've done. I know with Hal. I know you know all about this more than anyone.
He does.
Yes. It's so funny that people doubt this, and I'm like, wait, what? Listen, the CIA doesn't they don't waste money.
No, but they doubt it because it hasn't been part of their reality. So we've been taught to doubt that. And then the CIA comes along, and not only do they not doubt it, but they support a program for 20 years based on this intuitive awareness, and that's
results they were getting. Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, let's definitely do next time the show. But what I want to say to people before we go here is that life is abundant throughout the cosmos. It's everywhere, and because we are living in an open system. If you live in a closed system, it goes towards entropy. An open system builds towards complexity, and this is an open system being fed by the conditions of forever. I mean, who knows what it's feeding this open system, but there's more influx coming in. It's not winding down. It's building up as we evolve. So we descended into matter, involution. Now we're evolution back to that oneness, like you said, and waking up and hoping, creating a better, happier, joyful planet, greater human experience, more love, more compassion, more creativity. The creativity is the key. Follow your joy, follow your creative impulse, and you're going to give a gift to humanity. That's my belief.
I love that. Alan, I don't think I've ever had a guest on who has answered every question I had without me asking it. But I've done that exceptionally. I can't wait to do it again. We'll do it again one day. We'll talk about remote viewing. And it's so great to talk to you, my friend. And it was so great to finally meet you in person. And I'll be in touch with you very soon.
Well, you have a great radio. You have a great voice for podcasting. And thank you, Faust, Mr. Faust. I had a friend named Bobby Faust, but yeah.
Oh, I used to have a friend with the last name too. Yeah.
Yeah. But all right. And thanks again. We'll do it again. So
Yes, Alan, thank you so much. You take care. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.